It is now 6:17. We will reconvene our regular meeting. Dr. Head, do we have any special guests and introductions tonight?
Yes, we have Beth Marshall. Where's Beth? Beth, there she is, right there with Community Impact. I've said this a couple of times, but when Beth reports on things, she reports them accurately, which I really appreciate. She reports the board meetings accurately, and she's done a couple of interviews, and she always gets the facts right, so thank you very much. So next I would like to have Leanne Nutt, if you'll come up and introduce. Okay, sorry, okay. And then Nicole Bolton, would you come on up, Nicole? And Nicole is presenting the Chancellor's Faculty Technology Innovation Grants winners. Chancellor's Faculty Technology Innovation Grants
It's quite
winners.
the tongue twister. Good evening. Would you like me to go into a little bit of an overview for everybody? Okay. So this year, as you said, I am introducing our fiscal year 18 CFTIG award recipients.
Tell them who you are.
I'm Nicole Bolton.
What you do.
I'm the Director of Client Relations and Communications for our Office of College Services. And I also get to serve with the CFTIG Review Committee, reviewing the proposals and making recommendations for funding. As you may remember from previous years, we have actually recently moved the timeline. So we are, everything happens in the spring. We review the proposals. We hear from the applicants, and they do a brief presentation to the review committee. We did this so that the applicants could actually have a lot more time to procure and implement their projects. And the core goal of this grant is to encourage innovation in the classroom. This year we had a record number of 9 awards that were award recipients. So with that, I would like to take a moment now and introduce them all to you. First up, from LSC University Park, we have Pamela Auburn, Matthew Bryant, and Jeff Gorman, who were awarded for their Learning 3D Chemistry using Spartan Visualization software proposal. Specialized laptops, along with the Spartan software lab pack and an instructor suite, will be funded. This advanced modeling software will help students make the incredibly complex leap between traditional 2D structures that appear in traditional textbooks to realistic 3D representations.
Do you want?
Are they?
They're all here. Do they want to stand up and let us know who they are? Congratulations.
Spartan visualization software will enable instructors to design learning activities that will help students visualize and manipulate molecular models virtually in order to reinforce difficult concepts in general and organic chemistry. Additionally, students will have access to a repository of protein structures that were part of the 2017 Nobel Prize Award for Chemistry that was just awarded yesterday. Next up, from LSC Sci-Fair, we have Buck Buchanan, Dr. David Bruner, Michael Konvichka, and Carlos Aguilar, who were awarded for their presentation, or for the proposal.
You guys have to stand up, and okay.
Their proposal, Geovisualization, Imaging and Imagining New Views of the World. This grant will fund the purchase of a 70-inch 4K capacitive touchscreen display, which will be utilized to display and manipulate large-scale geospatial data, a DJI Inspire 2 UAV, which includes advanced safety features and GPS for more precise geo-reference data collection, a DJI ZenMuse X5S high-resolution camera, and additional UAV accessories. The hardware and software that will be obtained through this grant will provide laboratory analytic capabilities in order to give geography, anthropology, geographic information systems, and computer information technology students experience in field data collection and lab analysis. Plus, the technology will put spatial theory and geographical reasoning to practice in both field and laboratory environments.
So if you're over at Sci-Fair and you see drones flying around,
Don't be alarmed.
Buck has permission to, I think you're the
Absolutely.
only one, you all asked for permission, and you're the only one who had permission to fly drones around, by the way. Only because nobody else has asked, so there you go.
Yet. Hold that thought.
Oh, okay.
Next, from LSC North Harris, Norma Japal, Mark Gordon, and David Puller were awarded for their room-scale virtual reality lab proposal. Through this grant, an active virtual reality motion platform controlled by first-person navigation, like walking or running, virtual reality headset and wireless touch controllers, virtual reality applications, and accessories will establish this new lab. Faculty from all disciplines will be able to incorporate immersive room-scale virtual reality experiences into their classes. Students in visual communication classes will gain hands-on experience in designing active VR games. Art students will have the ability to create digital art, while anatomy and physiology students can view 3D anatomical models. From LSC Montgomery, Dr. Danny Kiner, and from LSC Antonius Baum were awarded for their photovoltaics canopies proposal. This grant will fund the construction of a 33-panel solar canopy over the parking lot adjacent to the LSC Montgomery greenhouse. In a collaboration between electrical technology students at LSC Creekside and biotechnology students at LSC Montgomery, students will gain real-world experience developing an action plan for implementing the solar technologies to power the previously established biorefinery at LSC Montgomery. Additionally, students from commercial electrical and alternative energy courses will oversee and carry out much of the installation of the solar canopy themselves. Once installation is complete, the solar array is expected to generate sufficient power to operate the LSC Montgomery greenhouse.
Interesting.
Cool.
From LSC University Park, Bryn Benford, Heather Brasher, Matthew Keyworth, Matthew Bryant, and Krista Spears, unfortunately none of whom are able to be here tonight. They're all doing what they do best, teaching classes. They were awarded for the proposal GIS for Inquiry, Integration of Geographical Information Systems into Multidisciplinary Courses. iPads will be outfitted to be taken into the field, and ArcGIS lab software will be purchased to introduce students to GIS in the context of various subjects. This initiative will train faculty from different disciplines to use GIS to develop learning modules that enhance student critical thinking skills and spatial awareness. Utilizing GIS in coursework promotes active engagement and student interactions, which enhance the learning process. Additionally, this initiative will also educate students about the various educational and career pathways in which GIS skills are valued. From LSC Kingwood, Dr. Brian Schmefsky and Dr. Alexander Smirnoff were awarded for their integrating high-tech STEM into geology and environmental science curriculum proposal.
I don't think Dr. Smefsky has permission to use the drone, does he?
Well, I guess that's between.
Oh, I see. You got it.
He was ready for that.
This grant will provide funding for drones optimized for geological and environmental investigations, industrial-grade temperature loggers, portable wind and weather stations, remote water quality data monitoring units, and other data gathering equipment. The technology requested in this grant is critical for teaching hands-on skills for several student learning outcomes in environmental science and geology. Dr. Schmefsky and Dr. Smirnoff will apply the drone and field data collection technologies in their classes to teach students the principles of remote monitoring for collecting geological and environmental science data. Both faculty will develop hands-on field activities that provide students with skills to use these technologies in field research projects. From LSC North Harris, Dr. Nancy Lim and Dr. Alice Vanier, both again who are teaching courses right now, were awarded for their proposal bringing barcode technology to pharmacy instruction. This funding will provide software and equipment that will enable students to learn and practice skills in barcode technology that is a vital and demanded skill in the workforce. By utilizing barcodes, students will learn to more effectively dispense medication, receive, check, and monitor inventory, produce drug labels, and a variety of other functions that improve a patient's quality of life. From LSC Montgomery, Rajiv Malkin and Nicomedes Marina were awarded for their project Coders. This project will fund the purchase of Pepper, a humanized robot, Neo, a programmable robot, drones, virtual reality systems, and Raspberry Pis. Land surveying students will work with computer science students in an integrated learning experience, working on joint projects to develop skills. Computer science students will learn to write algorithms based on concepts such as geolocation and geofencing, while land surveying students will learn and understand how photogrammetric techniques can be applied by using aerial cameras and sensors for data capture by drones. And last, but certainly not least, from LSE University Park, Devika Lalsingani, Martha Donnelly, and Isabella Fisher were awarded for their Wacom Interactive Pen and Pad Enabling Math Active Learning proposal. This project will fund the purchase of Wacom pads and their accessories. These interactive pads will enable math active learning and will provide our adjunct faculty with the same resources in the classroom as full-time faculty. They will also provide students with the opportunity to revisit the materials covered in class. Rather than having to choose between taking notes and listening to the professor, students will know that the notes and lecture will be available for them via D2L or another online website after class. In short, the Wacom Interactive Pen and Pad will provide the students with resources so that she can be better prepared and ultimately succeed in the course. And on a final note, I'd like to take just a moment to thank the Chancellor's Faculty Technology Innovation Grant Review Committee. This year is comprised of Patrick Barton from LSE Sci-Fair, Karen Buckman from LSE Montgomery, Anthony Curris from LSE Kingwood, Kim Carter from LSE Tomball, Paula Califf from LSE University Park, and Bob Lynch from LSE North Harris. I feel like in the past year or so, the quality of our applicants have just tremendously increased. So our task is much, much harder every year. So I wanted to thank you all for your time and your dedication.
Nicole?
Yes.
Could you have those individuals here? Could you have those individuals stand, please?
Please.
Yeah. All 67 of them. Yeah.
Good job.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. On behalf of the board, I know we all appreciate faculty and staff going over and beyond as far as developing programs and applications that will benefit our kids. Job well done.
Thank you.
Do you have anybody, any others? Special guest or anything?
That's it.
That's it, okay. Board member, at this point, I would like to entertain a motion and a second to approve the minutes of our September 13th workshop and regular meeting.
So moved. Support.
It's been moved and second that we adopt our minutes of the September 13th workshop and board meetings. Any questions or comments? If not, all those in favor vote by the usual sign.
Aye.
Opposes? Motion passes. Dr. Head, you are still the center of attention with special reports and announcements.
Just a quick couple of updates here. One is, as of official day, system-wide, we were up 4%, and which is amazing given the all the events we had with the hurricane. We were up 4%. What's even more amazing is that Kingwood, which just opened on the 25th, was up 5%. And I've already said this to anybody that I could possibly talk to about what a great job that Dr. Pearson and her faculty and her staff and her administrators have all done over at Kingwood and keeping everything together over there and getting those students enrolled. There's a lot of work that went into that from a lot of different people at Kingwood and outside of Kingwood, but if you would have told me that enrollments would be up over there 5%, I would have bet you a lot of money that wouldn't happen. So she has worked tirelessly. You all see her, you're getting a lot of her emails. I don't know how she has time to do it, but she's sending an update. I think you're up to day 33 or 34 or something like that. I don't know what, I've lost track of the days now, but you want to say anything? We, for the board, I just, I cannot tell you how much everybody worked together to help Kingwood. Everybody reached out to Kingwood, and Catherine's not hesitant to ask for things. And I'm going to have Jennifer come up in a few minutes when we do the Vice Chancellor piece. You can come up, or actually, you can do that after Link, and talk about where we are with the budgets and the damage and all that, and how we're going to handle all that. But it was very, very rewarding. Our group has really worked together to help everybody. So, and Anthony's out there at the Faculty Senate, but it's not just the faculty, it's the faculty and the staff, and everybody worked really hard. I mean, I know the faculty called students, a number of them called students to help them get in, which was our number one goal. So thank you. And I think that is it for my part.
Yeah, one thing I want to do tonight, last week, 4 or 5 of the board members, Helen and other people, we attended an ACCT meeting in Nevada. The thing that I was mostly impressed with, and I was impressed with a lot of stuff, Dr. Head led a part of the program that had a room that was full of people, and what it dealt with was the 5-year plan that Lone Star has implemented. When I first saw the subject matter, I did not think that there would be a lot of people there and a lot of interest, but there was a lot of interest. And I asked Dr. Head, did we copyright this 5-year plan that our staff put together? Because if you measure the interest in dollars and cents, we could have made a lot of money, on that particular program. A lot of folks came up afterwards and said, can we have a copy of this? We would like to implement this, and et cetera. The thing that I like mostly about Dr. Head, he gave the individuals, he admitted that he was a history major and never had a course in finance, but he was interested in this area. So that led me to believe that his financial staff, his systems people, and a lot of other individuals spent a lot of time developing that particular product. The second thing that they were impressed with from the report dealt with what he just mentioned earlier about the growth of Lone Star. Most of those colleges were shocked that Lone Star continued to grow when other colleges' enrollments are supposedly decreasing. And in keeping with the usual philosophy of Head, he did not take credit for that. He pretty much said we're just blessed to be where we are. We're in a growing community. But I would like to say that yes, we are in a growing community, but we have developed a product and programs that are attractive to people, not only to the people that live in our service area, but they're willing to pay additional money to come to our classes. So that's a great thing, and I am proud of Dr. Head. I'm proud of you, proud of the students. And as I tell Mario all of the time, I hope we can all maintain the same momentum, because I like folks to brag on us and brag about us. Did I leave anything out, Dr. Head?
You did. Art Murillo and you were on the 5-year plan, and Dr. Trowbridge and Mario were on the Title IX.
Yeah, I didn't mention that because they didn't compliment us as much as they complimented you.
Okay.
What?
Okay.
I skipped over a really important person. Rochelle, would you, if you've not met Rochelle Canton, Dr. Trowbridge, you remember her from,
Oh, yeah.
I just need for you to tell your story, and then when you sent that last note, I sent it to a couple of people and said, this is why we do what we do. So thank you for you can go ahead, I'll let you talk.
Hi, my name is Rochelle Canton, and I'm a student at Lone Star College, Montgomery. And I'm here to say that my college experience has been phenomenal, or should I say very remarkable, because this is the very first board meeting or any type of meeting that I've ever been to, or anyone in my family. And no one in my family has ever accomplished the many miraculous events and achievements that I have experienced. Lone Star College has not only changed my life, but the future of my families through me. And I would like to say thank you to each and every one. I always wanted someone or something to come along and change my family. That was my prayer when I was younger. But those prayers has been answered, and God is always willing to be there for you as long as you're doing what's right. And I don't know how many times I have given thanks, and I walk this campus thanking God for everything that He have put in you guys' hearts to do for students at Lone Star College. Because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be standing here today. And I thank you. I would like to give thanks to Lone Star College for living up to your mission, providing comprehensive educational opportunities and programs to enrich lives. And because of your mission, my life is truly enriched and transformed in many areas, because now I have a wider view on life. I have upward social mobility. I'm networking in better places. I attend the Houston area spiritual care network in order to get resources. I'm glad that I attend this because it gives me hope for tomorrow on attending maybe even future board meetings. And also and I thank you for giving me a college experience that I never thought I would accomplish or even deserve. Lone Star College has given me hope, greater ambitions, and a promising future. My educational path is to graduate with my AAS from Lone Star College in substance abuse counseling. I am looking to transfer to Sam Houston in order to work on my master's, I want to work with not just substance abuse. I don't want to be limited to the population in which I can reach, but I want to work with mental health as well. And so I thank you for being there for me, being my support, because I do not know how I would have made it. But I knew it was meant for me to be here, and I thank God for each and every one of you. Thank you.
May we have a question? You mentioned several things that Lone Star has done for you and your family.
Yes.
What would you say is the most important thing that Lone Star did to really give you the momentum to press forward?
What Lone Star did was the financial support came right at the right time, but it goes hand in hand, because what the campus itself did was gave me education about me, because I did not know what I wanted in my life. My primary goal was to go get my nursing and just go into the work field. But after attending that campus and the love and support and all the knowledge that I was gaining, I decided to go into another direction. And I stayed, I listened to, that inner voice. And so it's been a combination of things. I have received so much love and support. I look at the campus as the faculty, as family. I don't know you personally, but I carry you in my heart.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Something Rachel didn't say that you need to know about. Early on, she got into a serious burn.
Yes,
90% of her body was burned.
yes.
She was told that she'll never walk again. She was told that she'll never use her right arm again.
Yes.
You can walk, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes.
She's
I
very
could
nice.
use it.
But that's the left arm, right?
I could use them.
She had to, at times, sleep in her car
Yes.
because she had no place to go. And she has a 4-point.
Yes. 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 I would not give up because I always heard, and staff is good at saying it, don't never give up. Always come to us. Don't never give up. And those words stayed with me. And I didn't have nowhere else to go. So I bought whatever you call those, and a lamp and a fan. And I got in my car and I slept on that campus. And I said, Lord, why do you have me going through this? And I went through it for a while, but I maintained my grades. I maintained that 4.0. My grades did not sway at all. And I walked that campus, I prayed and everything, and then finally, about the next day, I received a notification saying, Ms. Canton, you made the presidential list. Would you like to attend this meeting where you would speak? Oh, yes, yes, yes. And then, all these different events start opening up and different doors. And I knew that was confirmation that I was on the right path. And I know I'm in the right place because I'm standing here. I never thought I would be doing something like this. Not me, but thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes.
And you have to be a living witness to others in the community that fall in the same category. Let them hear your story.
Yes, I do. I share it with students and everyone else. I've even motivated other people to even go back to school. I've even motivated others and helped others enroll in Lone Star as well.
May I ask you 2 questions?
Yes.
What made you not give up?
Determination. I knew that it was a reason for me to attend this college because at first I was so adamant about just coming and get my nursing degree and just going into the work field. But it was just something, it was a driving force that said, Rochelle, this campus has more to offer. And like I said, you guys lived up to your motto, every bit of it, every bit.
Because I think a lot of folks might have already given up if they were in your position, so that's very admirable.
Yes, and what I do, I tell students when I see them down, because I'm very motivational and the staff will let you know if you ever ask. Yes, Rochelle is very encouraging. I encourage other students to not give up. When you think things are rough and you think your life is in shambles, someone else has it just as hard or even harder. Yeah. And not to give up, especially if it was something that called you, because that's what builds us. That's what gives us our character. And that is what's going to make us stand and give us our roots and our foundation. If we believe that something is possible, we have to stand on it. It don't come easy.
When are you graduating?
I'm supposed to graduate in the spring of 2018. I hate to, but I got to.
Well, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Just so the board doesn't worry about this, we told her if she'd let us know where she goes, we'll help her get a scholarship at her next stop. So
Awesome.
we know a lot of people. So with her grade and determination, we heard her speak at, was it Interfaith? Where did we hear you talk? Our gala? Okay. And anyway, she came over to the table and started talking, and the more we listened to her, I'm glad Dr. Trowbridge brought that up. I thought you were selling yourself a little short there. I was going to bring it up if he hadn't, but anyway, congratulations.
Dr. Nutt next.
Yes.
Dr. Nutt?
So I appreciate, Rochelle, your story. I would answer the question that she didn't give up because she has grit. So she is a perfect example of how we're trying to teach our other students who give up with much less circumstances and challenges that they have to deal with, how to not give up. Shameless plug, Grit Summit, October 13th. So, Dr. Smith, Dr. Hedden, members of the board, it's my pleasure to represent the presidents tonight, to give the president's board report. And what's already been said tonight has been a great segue into this presentation. As you know, one of the greatest indicators of a high-performing community college or any business or organization is being crystal clear on what it is you're supposed to be doing and being crystal clear on whether or not you're achieving those goals. So that's what we're talking about tonight, is how, as presidents, we are responsible for knowing what are we doing and how are we getting there. We have an academic term for it, key performance indicators, but really all that means is that we're tracking our priorities and we're making sure that we're doing what we say we're going to do. There are two categories of indicators that we look at primarily, and those fall into these two buckets. You've heard both mentioned tonight already, growth and student success. So growth is one important indicator of the health of an organization. But as you just heard, student success is a very important indicator as well, that we're accomplishing what our mission and purpose is as a community college. So under the growth metric, we break that down into two areas: academic, which is transferred to a four-year institution, and workforce. And so that is entrance into the workplace. For both of those, we count headcount, our credit hours, and our contact hours. For our student success metrics, I've highlighted the key words here to draw your attention to: persistence, completion, transfer, degrees awarded, and then overall completion. So persistence is simply, did students start in the fall and did they persist till the spring? Did they come back in the spring? Did they start in the fall and come back in the fall? And then we want to make sure our students are finishing their developmental coursework, those who have to go into that, within a year. And then we want to track and make sure we're on target for the transfers and completion of courses and degrees. So this coming year, we will also, through our Student Success Institute, be looking at two specific indicators to track in this category, in this initiative as well, persistence and degrees and certificates awarded. So how do we do that? I hope this works. If it doesn't, we'll just move on quickly. But we have three primary resources that we access often to track our progress and see how we're doing. Our AIR department, Analytics and Institutional Research Reporting, Nicole, those guys, Marion, are fantastic. We have online resources for that. Power BI is at our fingertips, as is Civitas Learning. Let me see if this works just very quickly. These will go to, timed me out. Hang on real quick.
While you're doing that, just so the board knows, it's about key performance indicators, it's performance metrics. And this is the way the college, well, first of all, the state has 10% of our money coming down on these performance indicators. And now we give $2 million to the colleges, and we carve them up based on performance on this. So
Right.
we're trying to tie state goals. And I think some of us, including me, the chancellors and presidents, are pushing for the state to go more performance metrics instead of just giving you money. We want them to put some standards to it so that because we could be a high achiever and other colleges could not, and they get the same money per person. So
I'll talk about
we're
budget here in a
pushing on-
second, too.
We're pushing on
that.
performance metrics internally.
So this is the AIR dashboard, student success KPIs, and we can come here and at any time, if I want to see how are we doing on overall successful completion, we've got it at our fingertips, and we can run different reports. I don't know why there it goes. And so for any kind of, do I want to compare campuses, we can break it down by race, ethnicity, gender, first time in college. The data that's available to us, that Lone Star makes available to us, makes our jobs easier because we can track where we are. We can set targets where we need to improve. The other one that I mentioned was Power BI. So this is a relatively new tool for us. There's a couple of different, this is my workspace, so here's the AIR official. We can look at all of these different types of indicators on how we are performing. And so to have this data available to us, we can break this down a couple of different ways. I can run it academic workforce, by term, by college. It's just a powerful resource for us as presidents to know how are our colleges performing and how do we set strategies around that to make sure that we reach our targets.
So Leanne, for the board, AIR, Analytics and Institutional Reporting is under links area, and I don't see Marion here, but Marion Cheney. We have every piece of information that you would ever want. So when you ask for things, normally when I'm sitting at a meeting, Link can look on either his iPad or his phone and get the information almost immediately. So we have everything that you would want. It's just a matter of us using the data and applying it in just practical business operations.
Right, exactly. And then the last one I just wanted to show you quickly is Civitas. There's a couple of different options with Civitas. This is a Loom. And so we can filter, and even this is the predictive analytics piece. So we can even filter down and run reports on names with names of students and contact information on who's predicted to complete or not, or how do we need to set a strategy to reach out to those students who might fall in this very low or low prediction category. And there's very much a whole lot of math and science behind all of this. What we, or I and the others presidents, want to know is, are we reaching our targets? How are our students performing? And this gives us resources. Just with logging in, we can be able to track that. So I wanted to share with you that we talk about key performance indicators, but resources are made available to us so that we can take responsibility and really know where each of our colleges are and what we need to be working on, which is very, very helpful. So let me see if I can get back to this. So as Dr. Head was saying, there is performance-based funding. The way Dr. Head and the way it worked for Lone Star for this fiscal year, you saw a line item in the budget that had $2 million worth of growth and performance money in that budget. And so this is the connection to that piece. The way that formula is looked at is we look at the number of percent increase change at each college, but then also the contribution that a college made to the overall percentage. The $1 million in growth broke down 400,000 academics, 600 workforce, and then I'll show you here on the next slide how student success KPIs are tracked. Don't worry, I'm not going to go line by line and go over every single number in here, but just look at the overall picture. The green indicates where each of us had improvement in this key performance indicator area. So I'm focusing on tonight overall successful course completion because all of us had an improvement in this area. And so we can, at a glance, look and see that definitely there was improvement. You can see some negatives. So we know that's an area where we need to find out what happened, what do we need to do differently, and formulate some strategy around that.
Can I point out something? What we don't do in the meetings is look at some college. I'll pick on Tomball.
Pick on Tomball since I'm up here.
I don't just because students completing the developmental math requisites within 1 year and they drop, there could be,
Up here.
that's not to go, well, you didn't do good. That could be, there's a combination of reasons that could have happened. There are other factors. So it's not us, I don't like the competition in between, negative competition between the colleges. I like positive. If you're doing something good, you might want to talk to your colleague about what's going on over there, but the negatives, we don't do that. And we
Right.
try not to make this, it's not we don't penalize people, but we reward people that are working on the goals that we want to work on. And the reality is, this is what's coming down from the state. So it's not a big stretch to figure out that if it's coming down from the state this way, then it ought to be how we carve up our money.
And then as presidents, it is our responsibility to be able to know what contributed to the positive growth, what are others doing that are working well that we need to scale. So
Let me add one other thing. So if Leanne thought that was something they need to work on, then she could take her dollars that she has and repurpose dollars and assign people to work on that project if that was an issue, and whichever one you thought you needed to work on.
Exactly. So, as I said, we're mentioning overall successful course completion. This is just some of the data and how we're looking at this. And so just some bullets about when we look at each of these KPIs. What we're able to do now is know what the baseline is. For so long, you might have a target, but you don't even know what the baseline is. So you don't know what's a reasonable target. We are very intentional about sharing with each other. Then we set our targets and we go to work and try to make a difference. Now, when I say we go to work, there's some things we do and there's some things we don't do. And I think it's important to note what we don't do. When we talk about, because it's easy to make a false assumption, there's money associated with performance, so let's lower expectations in the class and let's reduce rigor. Let's pass students who haven't learned because we got to hit that mark so that we get money. I promise you it's not playing the data game. It is truly more about what's the environment, what's the commitment, what engagement activities, what are our strategies. And so just from an ethical place and a place of integrity, knowing that meeting those key performance indicators is done from a place of wanting to do the right thing, not just play the numbers game. So what do? So on this one specifically, these are just categories of examples that my colleagues shared. We have to recognize the role of faculty in overall successful course completion and their commitment and their professional development. Some are co-teaching. Instructional design matters. Of course, engagement matters. You hear us talk about engagement a lot. Student development matters. So grit, persistence. We talked about that earlier tonight when I got started. Assuring that students take responsibility and accountability for their course completion, building that in with our students, and then just the amazing supports that we're able to give. These here listed are just a few examples, but all of this taken together goes into successful course completion. And if something's working really well at another location, we try to scale that. Now, we have tasked a VP Council, AVC Council, with identifying which of the key performance indicator strategies work well that we need to scale over the system over this next year. And so with that, I'll just say that it's a pleasure to work with all of the colleagues on this, and I appreciate the resources that are available to us to help us do our jobs well, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
How do we, I think I know the answer, but how do we know when we're successful? I have a tendency to look at competition, and if we're among the highest competitors, I feel great. But you could also look at it another way. So I guess my question is, how do we judge?
Well, that's a really big question. I'll give you this example. So we do peer comparisons across performance indicators, Lone Star compared to Valencia's and the St. Clair, those that we consider peers in the country. Now, within each of those key performance indicators, to kind of bring it down to real focused, there is a definition of success that's been operationally defined for all of us so that we're all operating from the same definition of success. For instance, so overall successful course completion means an A, B, C, or a passing grade divided by total enrollment. So there's no question that how I'm defining students' overall successful course completion is the same of each of the other 5 colleges as well. So the very practical response is each KPI is operationally defined. The target ranges of where the data was pulled from is operationally defined. And so each of those has a measure, a definition of success. Now, how Lone Star measures its success overall, I think, Dr. Head, it's the comparison to some of our other
We get the
peer
reports,
institutions.
on what we call student success points. We get the reports across the state, so we see what everybody's done. You get rewarded on it. I mean, it's just the business side of what we do. The more points you get, the more money you get. So, but we take a look at A's, B's, and C's, which are important to me. We see what other colleges are doing, peer colleges. We look at the graduation rates on workforce, how people are doing that come out of our dental programs or nursing programs, and we always rank high on those. We'll have another report sometime later this semester, I think, on how well we're doing. We know how well our students are doing when they transfer. We see the numbers, and we know what the grade point averages are. So it's a combination of factors. We know what people are doing in the workforce. A lot of this is word of mouth, by the way. But so we have a combination of factors that tell us.
Yeah, and the reason I ask that, when you go to conferences and you'll ask questions and people say, oh, we handled that real good. What's your number? Oh, I don't know. That's how are you judging that? Well, they can't really tell you.
Yeah, this really puts a quantitative measure to some very qualitative things, such as student success, and that helps us track and make sure that we are doing what we're supposed to be doing in the time frame we're supposed to be doing it in.
I want to add my 2 cents over here. You're correct, Mr. Chairman, about how not every institution has a well-structured and crystal clear goals, and when you guys make it look so easy, you wonder why not everyone else does it, and it could involve different kind of fields or different kind of companies, and I've always asked that question: if the technology or the information is there for us to do this, goal setting and all that, why aren't organizations doing them? And I found out that people are afraid of the results. And you set a goal, and you might not meet it. I think something Dr. Head mentioned about once you have numbers, and maybe one of the disadvantages or whatever is that people might, try to compare each other, may say, they get a little competitive, or maybe those are the things that in other institutions would probably make this fail. That I think you don't want an organization to be resistant, afraid of failure, right? And what's the word, averse? Risk averse, right? You don't want the organizations to be like that. So I want to encourage you. This not only does it make my job easier to know what to read and what to write, but in terms of setting some priorities, it's not always about the specific goal, but what are you going to get out of it? In other words, it's okay sometimes to take big risks, and knowing that you might not get it the number you want and all that. But we're actually this is a breakthrough, maybe perhaps, that we're going to learn something even if we don't get it.
Right. I think that falls under no fear. I think that falls under our cultural belief of no fear, because it's it's easier, I think, in some ways to put up all the good news, but it's safe here to be able to say, look, we're not doing as well in this. Our students, we need to focus on that and to be willing to face the facts and lean into that and just make a difference and to know that exactly. So,
but why? I guess my question is, when we talk about competing against other colleges, what this really boils down to is gainful employment. How many of these kids are actually being employed and contributing to society?
Right.
So to me, the benchmark should be what industry is telling us and what the community is telling us, not us going against HCC or anybody like that. When it's all said and done, how many of them are leaving here and actually become employed?
Right. One of the things I didn't point out is on the AIR website that I went in, there are so many other indicators and employability, and we turn in a report to the state every year how many of our students are working or went back to school. So I think you would see more of that in there that I just didn't focus on tonight.
I do want to point out one thing, but we're not really I don't view us as competing against other colleges. They're competing against us. We're competing against ourselves, I might add, to always do better. And I agree with you. We want to take a look and see how many students are transferring, how well they do, and break it down. Are they doing well in English or math or science, so that we can make sure that our faculty know what the expectations are and we get in alignment with the college. Same thing with the high schools on the other side.
And the workforce programs specifically have to report off employability as well. Anything else?
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you all very much.
Thanks, board. Link, are you next?
Oops, I pulled the tray out too far.
Right, you're on.
Sorry. I powered it.
So I'd ask Link to come in and talk about how we handle the technology fees and equipment. And I think I mentioned to you maybe in one of the meetings, Link is the master of spreadsheets. So if you want to know something.
And
the data,
analytics.
he's got it, so, and data.
And data.
And charged with a lot of stuff on there.
So like I said, to follow this through, this fits in perfectly. You talked about ACCT when you talked about the 5-year plan for finance. The chancellor, of course, had a long discussion in how do we model things correctly. Well, when you model that, we're actually looking at what is the planning process. And we did this about 4 years ago for some of you that are here. You remember we talked about changing the viewpoint. If I could predict what was going to happen in 3, 5, and 10 years, I'd probably be on the stock exchange. Instead, I can look out there and I can see what's coming toward us that can impact education and technology. We shifted our planning model at that time to an 18-month rolling cycle. So we look at it every 4 months. We're more agile. We can address the needs of the college. Well, that fit in perfectly what we're talking about when we look at financial planning. Because before this, the reality was we'd finish a budget plan, we'd implement that budget plan for that year, and start planning for the next year. I can look out, I can tell you what I'm going to replace in 5 years. That's easy. But it's all these other factors. So when we look at our IT budget, we look at it from a standpoint that 55% of that budget is fixed. It is just going to be that way no matter what I do. But 34% of this budget is highly volatile. It changes based upon a lot of different factors. That's what I'm going to highlight and how we modeled this plan to support sustainability of IT. 11% is tied to projects, so that innovation and projects piece. So those are the key 3 areas that we look at when we're doing the budget planning. As you know, everything starts with one of those long discussions with the chancellor, and you come back with this interesting concept of, okay, let's develop a 5-year budget plan for IT, a model that can move us forward. But we wanted to design a plan that actually didn't require bond funds for major IT initiatives. So how do we prepare ourselves to overcome that hurdle? Also to maintain innovation, and then also our system stability, our reliability. That's one of the core foundations that keep us going every day. So I left the office and I put on my hiking boots and immediately started looking at what was ahead of it, because there's this huge 34% of the budget that is extremely volatile. I've got a demand of enhancements and projects coming in. We've got growth, new students coming in every day that impacts our licensing. But really some of the bigger factors, the full-time employees, part-time, and adjuncts, they play a significant role in this process. So we gathered all that information and came back with a pretty solid model. Had Jennifer's team actually tear it apart, look it over, help us fine-tune it and tweak it. Came back with some 3 major recommendations. The first was to create an R&R account to support major IT initiatives, licensing true-ups, and some major projects along the way. These are these big bumps we hit in the road all the time that we're either coming for extra money for a year or looking at other ways to fund. Control our application growth. Focus on maximizing what we own. And we've been doing this for the last 2 years, is maximizing what we own, taking those enhancements and moving forward. Doesn't mean we're never going to add anything new, but we're just trying to make sure we are good stewards in that process. Finally was to expand the iStar Center of Excellence. This will help us to reduce our consulting costs, but I think the best picture of this has been what happened with our recent upgrade to 9.2 in our PeopleSoft iStar environment. When we originally started that project, the initial project budget was right around $2.1 million for that upgrade. We reduced it to 1.8, and then I threw the iStar, the Center of Excellence team in, and we pushed it down to 1.4 million. Now, not only did we reduce it by that much because of that team and having them do the heavy lifting in project management implementation, but it also made a real significant difference in the long run for the project because we finished the project on time and under budget, and that was done in 8 months. Most organizations take about 3 years to complete a project of that scale.
Did you give us that money back, by the way?
You never gave me the money in the first place. That's why we started slicing. When I talk about that 34%, this is really the hardest thing to overcome when we're trying to do this budget model. Because the reality is 18% of my budget is tied up in 168 software licenses, maintenance contracts, and support items. So all those items, they have these different models they use. So the most common one I list up there, A, the full-time, half part-time, and 1/3 of your adjuncts equal a number, and then they tie a price tag to that number. That's a license cost, an annual license cost. So you can see the shift that could happen with employees. There's some modifications of that. Then you get into things like unduplicated headcount, iPads, devices, of course. You think about antivirus, you pay per device that you have connected. Then there's the unique one. I put that on there for a reason because as we're heavier in the cloud now, we pay cloud on a different basis. That's based on the data that we store up there, data that moves in and out. The cloud's not free. It's actually paid for. So you have all these different items that cause that, and it's very volatile in that process. Then I have a favorite dirty word in IT is called a true-up. True-ups we go through every year. This is where they take those calculations, whether that's iPads information or unduplicated headcount, and they determine if we have enough licenses. So now we might have an increase in a maintenance cost and have to purchase additional licenses. This happens on some of our major contracts. The other factor that comes into play is physical growth, and that's not just facilities, but that's also what we call normal growth. We have a normal growth of about 2% of PCs per year. May not sound like much, but those are going to be replaced in 5 years. So we have to accommodate for what's going on in the environment. You can see by the top 10 annual contracts, those top 10 alone count for $4.2 million worth.
What's your total budget?
40.
40. We're not talking about a small
This year,
operation here. We're talking about $40 million that, on the IT, but 40 million plus. And we have 17,000 computers and.
So, well, over actually just underneath 20,000 when you count all devices in there.
Yeah. And how
Over
often-
100,000 network connected devices.
What was our uptime or downtime last year?
0.
Yeah.
On tier 1 applications.
So, and while he's up here, Link has the model, IT is the model for kind of a system-wide approach. So it's a system-wide function, IT is, and so he has individuals at the colleges, and the colleges are extremely responsive to, if somebody needs something at the college, it's a system-wide organization, but they get it at the college. I can speak for myself when I was the college president that when we're looking at models, that is the model when you're trying to keep 6 campuses, colleges together and all these centers and making sure that somebody's responsive. He's got the model. So he's, without being heavy-handed about it, and they're just very extremely responsive.
Speaking of model, perfect lead into this one. So as we moved it forward, I've got a very short, very short summarized version of this to show you because there's really about 20-some workbooks behind this that actually make this model work.
I think I sent Link back after he showed me the 20-page thing. I said, just give me the executive summary here. So Jennifer and I were meeting with her. I was like, I don't.
You've seen something similar to this before, though, where you look at, what is the income, the revenue streams that are in there? What if an enrollment increase happens? In our case, because full-time employees are significant in our licensing, we look at full-time employee counts, and then if there's a cost of living. So it gives us a quick and easy way to look at our budget and what's going on. I really want to flip to this tab, though, because this is the one I really follow more than anything else. This one here gives me the warnings about true-ups. And this is critical because, so we had a 2.4% increase here, but let's say this next one comes in at 4%. You'll see all of a sudden I see, oop, that's 40, it won't work.
Yeah.
Oops.
If we had a 40% increase, I'll just run. Next one comes in at a 4% increase, and also you see some red flags come up. And it's warning me that I'm going to have a licensing true-up on some major licenses. And these are not small amounts, typically 800 to 1.2 million, depending upon how many seats I have to purchase. If we come up a little further and I run it up to a 3%, you notice another red line that came in right down here. That's another major license true-up that would come in on our database license, another about rough area, somewhere between $6 and $1 million for that true-up. That's the whole intent of building a reserve, because the way we're working it now would be I hold project money back until true-ups are settled, and then I release project money afterwards. So this allows us to change our dynamics of how we work.
So the board approved an increase in the technology fee. That's so that we didn't have to keep coming back to you, so we could kind of plot this out for a 5-year period, because we're going to need it, so.
We come up with a complete map for the long run. One other item I wanted to highlight was down below here on this line where you're looking at, in our licensing agreement, I talked about this faculty and employee ratios and how that works. You'll see two different problems that we run into as we design this model, but the reality is we have about a 1% growth in staff, full-time employees, and then we have the faculty growth that's been planned in. The licensing increases are pretty steady. Microsoft over this next year, 26,000, another 32,000, it adds up. The other contract, though, fits the same formula, but they do it for a 3-year period. So Adobe uses those numbers one time for 3 years, and then 3 years I true up again. So you can see I have a $100,000 increase after that period, and then that goes on for 3 more years. So that's the complexity of the model as we go through. We took into account the consumer price index for IT, along with what our typical vendors are, along with our growth of what happens in the environment. So that is the very quick, high-level view of a lot of different spreadsheets and calculations.
I told the board, I'll tell you again, we have a lot of really smart people that work for us, links in that category. So when you're looking at this, what I'm looking for when we're looking for these budgets is, have you thought this thing through? And do you know what, as I mentioned to you, we're spending about $10 million this year in workforce equipment and equipment of all kind. And so we have to replace that in 4, 5, 6 years. So we need to be very thoughtful about what we're doing and know what we're doing and have somebody that's thinking what's going to happen in 2021 and 2022 and 2023.
Correct.
That's just where we are. So
one thing I want to highlight, though, that this model really changes the way we do business. It really does. EDUCAUSE is the National Organization for IT and Higher Education, has recognized in the top 10 sustainable IT funding as a critical issue. This model truly does bring forward a sustainable IT model for us to move forward with. Also in that same report, they talk about agility and strategic planning. They also talk about vendor and contract management, which are 3 key areas we've been focused on because we know now we're in vendor contract management more than anything else. How do we work with and partner with a vendor to achieve the goals of the organization? This model does change the way we're going to do our project planning. Once we build a reserve up and we have that initial reserve in place, that means at the start of the year, all those projects we have planned and gated, we can actually just start executing on. I'm no longer holding project funds back waiting to see if I have a true up of $1 million that I have to come up with from somewhere. So that will significantly change that. Now I'll take from Mario here because I always know I have to put risks and assumptions and have an escape clause. Right, Mario? So one of the assumptions you've already heard, that means, well, we're not going to add any new IT to the infrastructure. Well, we all know that's not going to happen. What it means is, as we add a new system or software to the system, we have to look at the 5-year total cost of ownership of that item. What do we expect in return on that item? And then hopefully we're using best practices and maybe retiring another system along the way. So we find a balance. But we have to use that as we move forward in that plan. The other risk, and I didn't want to highlight this too much, but if we have exponential growth, I was here in the double-digit time. I know what it meant in the budget cycles because exponential growth not being paid back in 2 years, so 10% plus growth, it has an extreme impact if I look at the licensing. If we have a 8, 9, 10% growth, my true-ups accelerate so fast at such a high level that we couldn't build it up in the reserves. So those are certain things that we look at in risks in the process. I do have to put a plug in for my team on this because really it is a large team that made this happen, but we also had what we call the Harvey impact. Harvey came in and you actually had probably the very first time you've had a 0 deficiency, 0 findings, no exception audit. That was a complete financial audit of the IT operations budget planning, budget implementation, procurement processes, everything to do with IT spend was audited with 0 findings. That's part of the team that also helped build this model as we went through that. So at this time, are there any questions?
Is it copyrighted?
I'm thinking about that now. We're actually doing an enhancement already to this where we're actually putting it into our service now because that's where our contracts are managed at. And we're going to make it fully automated to where we can just enter parameters in and it'll feed up the red licenses, the true-up licenses for me, so I can start doing true-up projections right away. So we're moving off of a spreadsheet into an actual live system.
So what is your take on the cost of the hardware when we go to replace computers?
As far as my take, I mean, well,
I mean, is the price coming down over the?
oh, okay, yeah. And actually, yeah, it's actually been going down steadily on the standard computer side, and the quality and the life cycle's gone up. So right now we're running desktops at 5 years without any performance issues whatsoever, and the costs are going down. Even the core data infrastructure costs are what we call consumerizing, so they're becoming lower and lower, which is helpful. But at the same time I'll tell you, in 2008, we had a total of what was 20 terabytes of data storage. That's not much. Right now we have 6.6 petabytes of data being stored. That's gigantic.
A lot of repetition.
Yeah, it just, we're growing. I mean, the use of technology and this data and everything else we move forward with, it's exponential in the growth and the speed. So costs are going down, that's good, but other costs are catching it on the other side.
Blink, is it more economical to buy versus lease all this equipment?
Actually, it's more economical to buy because we actually do receive funds afterwards that roll back into the expenditures. So yes, the equipment is sent back out again, it's recycled, and then we receive dollars for at that point in time too.
Like, any risks that we're concerned about in terms of, we hear about technology changing so fast. Every year and a half, hopefully you get new equipment and new technology. Are we risking not focusing on let's say, cloud technology instead of us?
Well, we have a lot of cloud technology already. In fact, we consistently look at what is the best method to use at our size.
So we balance it out maybe?
Absolutely,
So make sure we're ready?
absolutely. Part of that process is it better to, we call it make, buy, or build, but the reality is we look at what are the requirements, what do you want to achieve, and what's the best possible solution. So, for example, the new Taleo system is a full cloud-based system. It's not on-premise at all. Okay. But yet it's completely tied into iStar. You would think it's a seamless process.
What about legacy issues? And, because I know you mentioned some software we have and all that. I mean, do we ever have to concern that contracts are too long?
We have nothing actually that fits. You mean as far as legacy type? We have no legacy systems left anymore at all. We're actually a very modern operation across the board.
Okay, good to know.
So I'm not sure anybody has any better technology than we do. Maybe they do. Not at a community college. If they do, I'm not aware of it.
So, Link, when you showed up, I thought, nice guy, going to be the IT CIO guy, and the job you've done is amazing, and the results that I hear back from students, some of the administration, the support that you offer is unbelievable. I would like to take my computer at home. It has a rope start at the top. I have to, I'd like to make it part of your system, but so great job. And I do have to tell you one story. I came on the board and all the colleges were totally separate. They all had different systems,
I was down there at that time, remember?
Well, actually what happened is I came on the board, and then shortly after that, this guy showed up. Let's see, Shaw?
Yeah, I think that was his name.
Yeah, and he took that whole thing and glued it all together. But one thing he said was, we had about 45,000 students at the time, and he was doing something with hooking everything together and cables and whatever. And I said, and so how big will the system you're initiating, what will it work for? And he said, well, we have to get ready for 100,000. And I thought, right. And he was right. And so I think you're probably really happy that he got here and did what he did before you got here. It helped a lot.
Okay, I'll agree with you there.
Okay. The dentist broke the machine. Anyway.
Yeah.
Bottom line, great job.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. It's not a job when you enjoy what you're doing.
Well, it shows.
Passion, passion.
One last thing I'd like to add is Link mentioned his staff, but his staff does a terrific job when, this is the way we want it set up for everybody so that he can take vacation and go away periodically. He still stays in touch, but the system runs the way it should when he's not around because he's got it set up right. And I know he's always around like all the rest of us, but he's got a really good structure. So when he's not here, we can go to somebody else. And I'd like for
we have an excellent team in IT and analytics that they all have the same focus, which is to achieve what the goals of the institution are and help students succeed.
Okay.
Thanks, Link.
Thank you.
Good job. Who's representing the Faculty Senate?
All right.
All right, come. All right.
Would you make sure you tell them who you are because I don't know they, okay.
Sir. John, is the microphone on?
Thank you. How you been doing?
Is that okay? Good evening, Chancellor Head, Chairman Smith, Board of Trustees, distinguished colleagues and guests. My name is Jano Houston. I am the Faculty Senate President at LSC Montgomery. Thank you for allowing me to be here this evening with you. And I would like to echo the question that Chairman Smith has just asked us. How do we know when we're successful? Tonight, each of you has been given a coin. And I want to give you each this quarter. And you will have the same denomination of coin, and each coin will have two sides. Here's the question. Does each coin have the same value? Now, as I was getting ready to speak tonight, I kept going through the internet for inspirational quotes on value and education, and couldn't find anything that I wanted to say. So I came up with my own saying. What I'd like to impart to you is this. People of value people. And so tonight, I would like to give you a report discussing the value that you see in our system. So the Faculty Senate President from Tomball, Kim Carter, has reported that they are continuing in their efforts. They have collected at least $3,300, and they've been rushing around to their faculty and staff members. And again, they've helped at least 10 faculty and staff. Paula Califf from University Park reported that they raised additional funds to support their adjuncts and part-time employees, even though the chancellor and the foundation allowed these employees to apply for funds through the foundation. I would also like to add that there is a community college called Mercer Community College in New Jersey, and they gave a special gift to Lone Star University Park of $10,000 to help flood victims. In just the past 3 days, we've had students at Montgomery request help through our Faculty Senate. And our VPI, Dr. James McGee, also sent out a list of our faculty and staff who were affected by the storm. And in fact, I found one of our instructional deans, Sarah Palacios Wilhelm, delivering baby formula and diapers to one of my fellow faculty members. You're going to hear more from Anthony next time because he's up in November, and so he'll give you more information from Kingwood. But I also wanted to say that the previous reports that you've heard from presidents and from Faculty Senate presidents in terms of the shelters that were set up at North Harris and at Cy-Fair are continuing to have major impacts in their communities. So in the final minutes of our discussion, I would like to discuss where we are and where we're going. Now, value is a funny thing because, as you can see on the slide here, it's not always revealed by the price that's set upon an object. And I just want to give you a little bit of my background. I actually am a community college alumna. I went to Casper College. It's a community college in Casper, Wyoming. Here's a picture of this. And I just wanted to tell you that even though I was probably considered a workforce student because I got into medical technology, I didn't know the difference between academic or workforce courses. I didn't know that all I wanted to do was work in a laboratory. I just wanted to get into science to help people. And I knew that I needed to transfer, but I just didn't know how to make all of these things happen. I worked full-time to pay my bills, and in the last year of my college career, I had to actually take out a loan because the program was full-time. I just want to tell one quick story. My grandmother took me to a garage sale in Torrington, Wyoming, which is a small town, the last year of college. And you might think, oh, garage sale. But it was at a prominent physician's home, and she bought me clothes, and she bought me kitchen accessories. I can tell you those clothes and kitchen accessories actually lasted me after college, and I wore them in my first job. And so the question is, or the statement is, I would say that the price that my grandmother paid for these gifts couldn't be equated to the value that they held. So I want to show you a couple of slides here. This is the Fabergé flower that this season was valued at $1.27 million. And the reason that this is that valuable is because the Fabergé name, the brand, means something. Exquisite craftsmanship. Also, this is an Ace motorcycle that'll be shown this year on American Pickers. This motorcycle is worth more than the cars in my driveway. This is a $90,000 motorcycle. And so, and again, it's because of its availability, its unique character, and its brand. Guess what we have here at Lone Star? We have a brand. We have a uniqueness. Chancellor Head, in our last Faculty Senate President's meeting, you said something that struck me. And you indicated that the CFTIG technology or instruments that had been impacted or destroyed in the flood would be replaced. And I just wanted to tell you that this is forward thinking, and this is a big deal for this reason. Nicole mentioned this earlier tonight when she was talking about the grants that have been awarded. I just want to say that these 2017 Nobel Prizes, and I just want to point out two, one was in physiology and medicine on circadian rhythms, and the other one was in chemistry on cryo-electron microscopy. I also wanted to give you an update just from a personal point of view. Some of the bond money has, we applied for some of the bond money to actually repair our electron microscope at Lone Star Montgomery. So I just want to say that we are cutting edge. And a lot of times people call us a community college. We're not just a community college. We're actually a college of community. We are exceptional, and we seek to achieve excellence in moving forward. And we also seek to provide the highest value. But guess what? That may not be in direct correlation to cost, although everything that we offer may have a price. So I just want to show you this right here. This little flower on the left-hand side under the cryo-electron microscopy is one of the proteins that they were able to determine the structure in circadian rhythms. And I just want to show you that this is actually, I had no idea that when I started community college that I would go on to get my PhD. But I will tell you that this is a figure out of my doctoral dissertation, and I don't know if you can see the similarities between the protein that they've mapped down here with the Nobel Prize and the oligomeric form of my protein that I studied for my thesis. And so I just want to tell you, I just want to reiterate here that knowledge is of no value unless we get to put it into practice. Finally, Dr. Head, I would like to make this statement that you said that at convocation that 35,000 of our students are taking online classes. Online is the fastest growing segment of our instruction. But what I would like to also say to you is that I took online classes in getting the equivalent of my master's degree. But there's always two sides to this coin. And so I ask that as we go forward, and the next time that I come and speak to you, I will have some additional data that I'm going to present to you on online and on our textbooks. And I just want to say there's always two sides to this story, two sides to the coin. And right now, Kingwood is actually the champion in online, aren't you, Anthony? So, and they are the champion in terms of the availability and ingenuity of these courses. And so for years, you may have had each campus taking up the banner of reaching as many students as we can, but we're not offering them necessarily an education. We are offering the opportunity to have an education. So I will come back and talk to you about textbooks and about online courses coming up. And in kindergarten, we're getting more and more into technology. And just to demonstrate to you, I just want to give you a demonstration. I'm the person who's responsible for these crazy red-colored tubes and these crazy green racks in front of you. I want to show you a quick video. And I just want you to know that every Nobel Prize person of whom I just spoke today, they had to learn what I'm getting ready to teach you right now. If you'll, I just have a quick, less than a minute of video.
Micropipettes are devices that are used to deliver small volumes of liquid, usually in the range of 0.5 to 1,000 microliters. And like other forms of laboratory instrumentation, the micropipette must be operated with precision so that your measurements can be reproduced consistently. The first step is to set the micropipette to the correct volume you want to transfer. For this example, we'll use 750 microliters. The micropipette requires a disposable tip. Tips are often stored in autoclaved plastic racks. Don't touch the tip with your hands, because this could introduce contamination. Attach a tip by pressing the micropipette firmly down onto the tip. The tube with red liquid is our sample solution. Let's use the micropipette to transfer 750 microliters to the empty microcentrifuge tubes. Press the plunger to the first stop and insert the tip into the liquid, just below the meniscus. A good rule of thumb is to place about half of the tip into the solution. Allow the plunger to slowly return to its undepressed position as the sample solution is drawn into the tip. Pause for 1 second. Now pull the micropipette straight up. Place the tip into the first microcentrifuge tube. Press the plunger all the way to the second stop. The sample is expelled into the container. Hold the plunger down and pause for about 2 seconds. Don't work too quickly. With the plunger still fully depressed, slowly remove the micropipette. Now you can release the plunger and eject the tip into a waste container. Now we've successfully used a micropipette. It's not hard, so don't be intimidated by it. But it does take practice. Your technique is very important. And since a micropipette delivers such small volumes, a minor operational flaw could make a huge negative impact on the accuracy of your measurements.
So what I'd like to do, just very quickly, is that's what you would have online with an online course in terms of showing you how to pipette. It's the very first step that a Nobel laureate in circadian rhythms would learn how to perform. So if you guys will take the lids off your boxes and grab your pipette, what I'd like to do is I'd like you to take the pipette in the dominant hand. Oh, and we've already got night. Look at this. All right, Trustee Lloyd, nice job. And he already redialed his pipette. That was very good. So what we'd like you to do is we'd like you to take the fluid, and here's what I'd like to show you. Yes, so you have 2 stops on your pipette. All right, Trustee Scott already has his finished. You have two stops on your pipette. You have the first stop and you have the second stop. When you go down to the first stop, you're going to place your pipette tip into the fluid down below the level of the red liquid, and then you will slowly release the plunger upward, nice, and then you will take this and you will put it into the blue microfuge tube in front of you. So if everybody can show me your blue microfuge tubes in front of you. Oh, these right here, Chancellor Head, there's your blue microfuge.
To discharge it?
Yes, and you can get another one of those. Oh, wait, yep.
Go ahead.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah.
I need a remedial class.
Okay.
That's right.
There you go.
Long thing.
And take this, go down to the first stop, go down to the first stop with your thumb here. Yeah. And then go down, and then release slowly. And release slowly. Perfect. And now put it in the tube.
And
press it all the way down.
Okay.
All the way down.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect. All the way down, slowly.
And
And now you're done. Close the lid.
take
Okay,
that
so, and
get
as you
rid
can
of
tell, let me see your tubes. Let me see your little tubes, your microfuge tube. Perfect. Trustee Lloyd has done a perfect job. So.
Well, he was doing it while you were talking.
That's true. And so the
I
point
tried
of
to
all
pay
of the point of all of this is that we are We're placing more of our content online. We're looking at more online textbooks. We're looking at our courses.
Okay.
And there may be a difference, and there may be two sides of the coin. And my question is, how do we know when we're successful? We're going to just have to work together to make sure that we know that that is a
Trowbridge,
success.
second.
I did it.
Thank you.
No, well,
You third.
Yes, there's mine. There's mine.
So,
Oh, I'm sorry, Dave.
Well done.
thank you.
good job.
I did it. I did it. I did it.
You want Jenna?
Yeah, if I could, if Jennifer would come up, and then, Nicole, you were going to come up and talk a little bit about the foundation when she gets through, about the awards that we gave. So I asked Jennifer to come up and give us an update over the kind of where we are with the damages and how we're going to handle insurance and what we're doing, what the next steps are.
Estimated cost of damages is still around 25 to 30 million. I would definitely say closer to the 30 million mark. A lot of this is still estimates, though. It's still very early. The large cost is going to be in once we start getting a lot of the invoices in over at Kingwood for the remediation that has occurred there, and then the reconstruction that's going to occur there. But so of that 30 million, 10 million, at least 10 million we're expecting to come from flood insurance. We've actually already received an advance of $5 million from Liberty Mutual. So that has been deposited into our accounts. Once we close that claim, then we would expect the additional $5 million. That's on the flood policy. We do still have wind coverage, so work that with Liberty Mutual is still occurring there as we do assessments of roofs that we have, especially over at Sci-Fair, to determine what, if any, claims could possibly go in for wind damage. So that's on the insurance. Oh, and the additional insurance place is on the science building over at University Park. That building, since it was still under construction, it had not yet reached substantial completion, was not on our Liberty Mutual general policy of properties. It has its own under construction insurance policy, so that's a separate policy that we are working with to determine what can be received there. In the meantime, we are capturing all expenses in one fund. It's one of our grant funds, Fund 35, so that way we have all expenses in one place. The insurance money that has already been received and future insurance money is all going to go into that same place. So we have one location that we can go in at any time and be able to see everything that we've either received or paid out in relation to impacts from Harvey. We also now have a FEMA consultant on board. They're called GP Strategies. They're going to be starting next week to help us through the paperwork process and policies and procedures process for applying for the FEMA public assistance. I personally hope worst case scenario, we get about 50% reimbursement. Worst case, I've seen it kind of vary between 50 to 80%. So perhaps there, like I said, I'm saying hope because I'm really going to start the in-depth meetings with a FEMA consultant next week. But if that's perhaps another 10 to 15 million, that leaves us a balance of about another 5 to 10 million that we would need to come up with ourselves. And that's where Dr. Head and I have been looking to the bond funds to be able to cover capital items, anything that was expensed as a non-capital item that can't be capitalized in our books, that would need to be paid for with operating funds or reserves.
But we generally think we're in pretty good shape here. We know what we want to do. We're just waiting on the insurance and see what happens with FEMA. And that may be a while. I mean, that's why we have reserves, and we'll pay those reserves back. But I don't think right now, the way we're thinking right now, we're moving ahead with the preparation of next year's budget and not anticipating significant. Right now, we put some money in there for Harvey repairs in next year's budget, and we'll just see about this year. I think if we have to use operating money this year, it'll be very little, but we're not counting on that yet. I don't see that yet. So, Kingwood itself, though, we'll be lucky to get in there about the middle of the summer and I'm not, Catherine and Jennifer and I have been talking about this, but it's just going to, that's how long it's going to take. We've already hired some architects, and we'll come back in November with a list of all the things that we've done and that need to be approved. But the reality is the repairs and renovations and all that will start late this year, early next.
Yeah,
It'll take
around that.
4 or 5 months probably.
And if I could mention there too, so we do have the architect on board for Kingwood, and we've actually scheduled for us, Dr. Head, myself, and Dr. Pearson to walk the campus, I believe, next week. The point there is to not just blindly rebuild exactly as it was, to go in and actually say, what do we perhaps want to look differently? For example, in phase 3 of the bond program are some renovation projects for Kingwood. So why not do it at the same time? Why rebuild as was just to come in and renovate something? We've also been talking about the third unisex bathrooms. That has its own separate bond fund. So in this way, I'm hoping we can economize some of the bond dollars that had already been programmed for projects over at Kingwood. So hopefully we can do a lot of this at the same time.
But we'll have Kingwood. I think I've told you this already. When I met with the group over there, it was the bad news is you're 6 out of the 9 buildings. You've got significant damage. The good news is you're going to have a very modern, nice new campus. 6 out of 9 buildings. So if you want to take a look at the positives, that's the way it will be. So.
Jennifer, I have a question about FEMA. You may have covered it already. You gave a percentage of the amount that FEMA may pay based on whatever their formulas are. Is there an appeal process when they determine what the amounts are? Do we have the ability to protest?
Yeah, there is an appeal process, and I mean, that was all included in the scope of work that I included for this FEMA consultant to help us through that process.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
So we'll keep you updated on that, but we've been on top of this from the beginning, and I think things happen. We'll take care of it. So.
Good.
Okay, thank you.
Good job.
I want Nicole just to give a brief update over the awards we gave and who we gave them and how much money was involved, so that the board knows. We did a lot for employees, a lot, so, and students, I might add.
Yes, we did. We actually, for students, I'll start with them because since the last time you've met, we had an additional $500,000 donation. So we have $1 million donated to help students, making sure they stay enrolled and in school. So we have distributed to 1,883 students, a total of $873,000. And again, was made possible by a private donor to the foundation. And we're working on that. Those were funds, 250 or 500 at a time, directly to the students. The balance of that will be spent per the donor's instructions. Are working on some things on Kingwood and potentially looking at how do we assist some of those students in the spring to make sure that they're not just okay now in the fall.
So
but
while we're there, so my concern is some of the students that had problems this time are still going to have problems financially, and what we're trying to do is get them to stay in school. That we want them to stay in school because Catherine and her group have worked. We've got all kind of alternatives, whether it be online, 6-week, 8-week, 12, whatever it is. There's no reason for them not to come to school. If money is the issue, then you have to let us help you here. So we've got some money in that account. So.
Exactly. And so we're looking at what our strategies are for the balance. But the bulk of that was, I was flooded, we lost everything, transportation for work and school, just this, and we know it's not going to completely fix it, but we know it gets them through. So on the flip side for employees, total we had 446 applications from employees, 275 of those have funded. So with employees, we were able to fund more than $122,000 in assistance. Part of that is from the Chancellor's Fund, and part of that was also from private donations, some of which you heard about tonight, all through the foundation. So we're happy that 62% of those applications were able to be funded, and as donations come in, we'll be able to go down the list on those. Questions? Anything else?
Oh, great job as usual.
Thanks.
Board members, are at this point in time, we would like to hear of any activities that you've attended over the last month, any school visits, or anything that you think is worthwhile for the body. You're not required to say anything, but Dr. Trowbridge.
I want to count our blessings here on something. We learned today that the U.S. Department of Education is investigating 12 colleges and universities in Texas related to the matter of campus sexual violence. I study this stuff deeply because I'm interested in constitutional matters, and this relates to the Constitution. But I want to say this. A lot of colleges and universities in this country now do a lousy job of Title IX sexual assault adjudication. A lousy job. I don't think we do that here. In fact, I know we don't do that here. I can't believe that there is a fairer or more honest Title IX sexual assault policy and procedure better than the one that Mario and his team have set up. Now, some of his A team is here, Nancy's here, John's hiding over there. But these people have an outstanding Title IX sexual assault policy. Last Thursday, Mario gave a talk at the ACCT conference and used this PowerPoint, a balancing act, Title IX best practices. And I think we have one of the best, if not the best practice in the country on Title IX and how to deal with sexual assault. You can get this, and I would say to you, particularly as a president or whatever, read this thing. It's absolutely outstanding. I don't think you're going to read any policy on procedure in the country that's better than this one. So get it, read it, send it out to the media, do something to say, we handle it here. The bottom line in this whole process is that we want to have an adjudication policy that is fair to both sides. And I can tell you right now, that is not the case in an awful lot of colleges in this country. It is not fair to both sides. My final point is that Steve has sent this model to Betsy DeVos. As you know, she's asked for recommendations now as to how to proceed. He sent it to her. Whether or not she'll read it, whether or not do anything about it, we don't know. But we have sent our policy because I think we have one of the best in the country, and we have 12 colleges and universities in this state that are being investigated for possibly bad policies. So take your hats off to Mario and to his A team.
Now, you mentioned Betsy DeVos. Who's that? Tell the group.
Betsy DeVos?
Mm-hmm.
But you know, a girlfriend of mine. Yeah.
No, the official title.
Department of Education.
I don't. Secretary of Education.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I think Dr. Holsey has an activity that he's going to be involved in this weekend, and I am probably in trouble. He does not want me to mention it now, but I want him to tell you what his plans are, and then Kyle's going to follow up with, yes, you are, Kyle. Yeah, good. Dr. Holsey, take a minute or so to do that, please.
In the morning, my wife and I are going to Sarasota, Florida, because there's going to be a triathlon I'm going to do on Saturday morning. My wave goes off at 7:30, so it'll be 6:30 y'all's time. I know you'll be up and wondering. And it's the race is to qualify for Team USA. I've tried 4 times and made it twice. And this race, if I do well enough, I will get an automatic slot at the World Triathlon Championships next year, which is the Gold Coast of Australia. So I'm taking donations for airfare. But And the reason I didn't want to talk about it is because I've tried 4 times and only made it twice. So, that's why they have a race to figure out. If I could just mail in my press clippings, then I'd automatically be on the team, but they don't do it that way. But now Kyle he's the horsepower in the.
Go ahead, Kyle.
I get to jump off a boat and swim about a mile into shore and then hop on a bike and then slip on the running shoes and down in the Kima try to swim again.
And what's the distance?
Mile and a half. Mile and a half swim, 26.2 on the bike, and then 10K run.
Great. I admire these guys. I'm too old to do that, so
Wait a minute. Who's?
Oh, that's well. I'm not as old as you are.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Alton, can I say in all fairness, I follow the philosophy of the former president of the University of Chicago, Robert Maynard Hutchins, who said, quote, "When I feel the urge to exercise, I lie down until it goes away."
Well said.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, go ahead.
Okay, if you like self-deprecating humor, you're going to like this story. As you know, as you heard, some of us went to the conference, ACCT conference last week, and I got to be a presenter, okay? And I think it was a few months back when I came to a meeting, I found out that I was going to be a presenter. And I think it's when you miss a meeting, that's how it happens, right? I would later get an email from Dr. Head informing me that the topic was a 5-year plan, financial plan, and blah, blah, blah. And of course, if you know me, I'm not very good at numbers, and I've mentioned that to Dr. Head several times, and I thought that, I'm even a little bit number phobic. So I kind of laughed thinking it was a joke, but when I'm going to read what he wrote, the email he wrote me, he says, "I was thinking that perhaps you could talk about the complexities of the budget, finance, as well as the financial implications of growth, fees, tax rates." And I laughed. I thought he was joking with me. He's a funny character, right? But and then I realized no, it was serious, and I was willing and ready to go. I guess he must know me better than I know myself, I guess. But anyway, it was when we were up there. I had a really, I think by being there, I think I was able to add my perspective as a board member, right? And from my walk of life and where I come from, and as far as I provided some insight. So afterwards, it went very well. But like Alton said, Dr. Smith said, he said that it was mostly because of him. He was the expert, and everybody's there to see him. But of course, simply by surviving that, I felt 6 feet tall afterwards. And I guess all along, I think Dr. Head knew what he was doing. So, thank you, Dr. Head.
Good job, Art. Anyone else? Helen, do we have any patrons that would like to have some words to us? All right.
Okay. Try this again there. Thank you, Chancellor, also Dr. Smith, members of the board and guests. My name is Fred Welch. I'm Executive Director with the Greater Conroe Economic Development Council, and really what I wanted to do is take just a few moments this evening to visit with you about our foreign trade zone 265, which is located in Conroe Park North, but really does service Montgomery County. I'm not going to, with 5 minutes, try to tell you what a foreign trade zone is. That would get into a lot of things, and I know this board and has seen and had activities on that. And there's a handout there that does explain a little bit about the history and the background. It is a very important program for us in Conroe and Montgomery County, and we're very appreciative of the assistance that we have received from Lone Star College and also our stakeholders that include Conroe Independent School District, Montgomery County, and the city of Conroe as the grantee. Texas, is this board is aware, is what we call an inventory tax state. It's part of the personal property tax bill. The foreign trade zone program allows certain companies who qualify and are in an eligible area to receive, in some instances, credits towards their inventory taxes that would be due, or more importantly, I think just the overall tariffs and fees and paperwork that are required for duties and transfers proves to be a very beneficial thing for most of these. In Foreign Trade Zone 265, we have basically manufacturing facilities, warehouse and distribution through one firm that is currently activated in the city. This zone was created in 2001. Actually, I think there was a hearing held here at Lone Star College at the time where the stakeholders were involved, but it has had the consent and active report from all the participants that I mentioned earlier. Now, the original boundaries of this zone have been about 400 acres. What's happened in Conroe over that period of time is our park has expanded. We are about 1,045 acres today, and so the city, as the grantee for the Foreign Trade Zone, is really trying to cover all of Conroe Park North to be included within Foreign Trade Zone 265. That's a weird map kind of showing the configurations and the boundaries. It covers about probably a third of that 1,000 acres. This is a contiguous park, so it's not parceled out in that respect. If you take an aerial view of the park and you take in the upper left-hand corner and come down to about a third of that area that's covered, that's what the current boundary is. And coming across the two roads there, in the center of that screen would be the additional 600 acres that we picked up. And Chancellor, if we can get some of your drones, we'll fly over there and get some better pictures, if that's all right, in the future.
Thanks.
So we are looking at all of Conroe Park North to be included in this. This allows the company that's currently in there, Bauer, who has gone through an expansion, and it's been a tremendous program for us because they purchased 20 acres of land that's not currently in the Foreign Trade Zone. And so this, as part of this expansion, will allow us to kind of take care of that. What the college has been involved with in the past, I believe, has been what we call a pilot agreement, a payment in lieu of taxes. What we have visited with staff on, thanks to Jennifer and Amos and legal counsel, is the ability to put wording into an activation agreement if a firm wants to go in that says they will continue in lieu of a pilot agreement to pay all taxes due to the college. So we don't have to go through this formal pilot agreement if there's one put in. The teeth behind it is that if they are not current in their taxes, if they don't pay those taxes that are due as a result or payable under what would be the Foreign Trade Zone Act, we would then take process to deactivate them. And that would be really administratively and financially a big burden to them. So we think this is a fair way to go. We'd like to proceed with it. Just to kind of simplify some of the bookkeeping and maybe the housekeeping, and then continue to report back to the board on a periodic basis of what our activities are and what might be there. The Bauer example is a really prime one. They started out with about 51 employees with the creation of Neilrig last year and Bauer Pileco, which are the two companies under Bauer North America. We have close to 400 employees that are within Foreign Trade Zone status. But what that really means is that that's about 10% of the workforce in our park. So for us, it's been very beneficial and a program we want to keep going. So we're looking for your support. We'd want to work with staff to kind of bring these things together over the next few days and few months. It might be just a letter of support and maybe a change of policy or resolution from this board that we'd be seeking at a later date. We thank you for your time and for the chance to visit with you here this evening.
What does Bauer make? What do they manufacture? What are they?
So Bauer has two divisions. They make what would be the rotary-driven pile drivers. So it's a rotary rig that will put pilings in for dams, for bridges, support structures. Their new venture with Neilrig, they're going one step further to a new generation of drilling rigs that will be deployed out in domestic oil fields.
Excuse me, Fred. I had a lapse of memory right there, but that's not an agenda item, so we can't ask questions. And
I apologize. I'm sorry.
No problem. But what we'll do is the chancellor will take a look at the proposal.
Yes, sir.
Get the appropriate parties together and get back with you in due course.
Thank you very much.
Yes, appreciate you. I missed that. Okay. Oh, okay. All right.
Good evening. I am John Bergduff, representing the American Federation of Teachers, and my comments tonight are actually going to be extremely brief. Tonight, I would like to express our support for action item number 1, which will allow citizens wishing to speak before the board to register to do so as late as 5:55 p.m. on the night of the meeting. This change will make it easier for community members to participate and will bring important perspectives to light that will help all of us to build a stronger Lone Star College. Thank you for considering this action item, and we urge its passage. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. That's it? Okay. All right, at this point, we are going to consider the consent agenda. And on the consent agenda, we have 16 items. Are there any items that the board would like to have pulled and considered separately?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
3, 4, and 7.
3, 4, and 7.
And we can consider 4 and 7 together. I have the same question for both.
Okay, 4 and 7 together. Okay. Any others? If not, at this point, I would like to have a motion on items 1, 2, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10 through 16.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we adopt those items. All those in favor vote by the usual sign.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And Cal, do me a favor. I was reading Robert Rules of Orders and et cetera. And when we consider these items, we need to have a motion first and a second, then we'll talk about whatever the issues are.
Sure.
So
3.
may I have a motion on item 3?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second that we consider item 3. Questions, comments? And Kyle, since it's your issue.
No questions or comments.
Okay.
Yeah, I just need to.
Yeah, all right. Want to say, okay, it's been moved and properly second.
I'd like to just say something about, the list of people, if you go down the list of people on the foundation board, outstanding individuals. I don't know all of them, obviously, but just great people, and I'm so grateful because I know they get the same paycheck I do, and they do great work, and they have a great leader, too. Oh, hi, Nicole. And I just really appreciate those people doing that job.
Well, I echo that. Both of the leaders are here tonight, and they are very, very dedicated to furthering the mission of Lone Star. Any other comments? If not, all those in favor vote by the usual sign.
Aye.
Opposes?
Just abstain. Abstain.
Abstain, okay, all right. Gotcha. Okay, a motion on items 4 and 7.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we consider items 4 and 7. Comments or questions?
Yes, I have a question for the 2 college presidents at UP and Sci Fair. This seems to be, both of these are going to be to establish the same programs at each campus. Perfect. That.
Yes, ours is going to be brand new, and we will be building a Macintosh lab.
Okay.
That is very durable for this kind of program. That's why the cost is high.
Okay, so just to. Good. So just to give background, I warned them that was going to come. One was going to do this with $26,000 and the other with $151,000, and I was curious as to the discrepancy. So one's an expansion, one's the establishment. Thanks.
Thank you, Kyle. Any other questions, comments? Good point. If not, all those in favor, vote by the usual sign.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Moving right along. Nicole, do you have another report? Okay. We'll go then with the financial report.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Yes, so first, just touching on the financial report in your book, the first 2 charts are the charts you've been seeing all along this year, and it's showing substantially the same thing that you've been seeing. Revenues come in much higher than budgeted. Expenditures, we did definitely came in under budget there, and some of the lowest in the past few years you can see there on that chart.
Jennifer, let me tell them, board, you have not seen this report before in this format. So we thought we'd lay out, this was Jennifer's idea, to lay this out a little clearer so you could see where we are and see that we're on target here, especially on the reserves. So.
Yeah, so getting to the statement of revenues and expenditures is really what led me to wanting to put this chart together, because last month when I was here giving the July financial report, but it was after August 31st, so I knew what the cash was on August 31st, that $52 million. So I told everyone that our cash reserve percentage was 15.5%, which I was very happy to report, and I'm still very happy to report. But then I put together this month's for August, and you can see here it says 16.4%. So I thought I'd show why this percentage can differ. The cash number stays the same. The cash is the cash. On August 31st, we had $52 million of long-term cash. But the percentage, what is changing that percentage is what the total expenditures is that we're using to do this calculation. So when I first came in here last month and said the 15.5%, I was using the current budget for FY17 of expenditures. So using that, what was budgeted at that point in time of $335 million, that's what made that percentage 15.5%. But as you can see from the chart that we just looked at in your report, the actual expenditures as a percent of budget, we came in under budget. So that $52 million as a percent of our total expenditures, our actual expenditures was $318 million. So that's what causes our actual percentage year-end FY17 to be 16.4%. Before you get too excited, though, August 31st ended fiscal year 2017. September 1st starts fiscal year 2018. So now starting a new budget year, and that budget did go up. So now we have a budget for FY18 for expenditures of $352 million. So at the beginning of the year, our starting point is 14.8%. Okay. Now, in the budget that this board adopted, the goal of that budget was to hit 16% by the end of fiscal year 18. So in the bottom chart is where I'm showing that just to keep us where we're at right now, that 15.5%, we would want to hit a balance of $54.6 million, and that would mean adding reserves of $2.6 million. To hit the 16% goal that we built the budget on, that would mean $56.4 million, and that would mean adding 4.3 to our reserves. But when we built the budget to hit 16%, we were doing so using that different expenditure number. So that means what we actually budgeted was $7.5 million to add to reserves. So where we've ended up, because we did come in under budget in FY17, right now the projection, the forecast for FY18, assuming we hit the budget as it was adopted, would be 16.9%. But that's why I wanted to walk through why that percentage can change depending on if you're measuring it of what the budgeted expenditures were versus the actual expenditures, and then the switch from one fiscal year to the next.
So this is really, this is just very positive news. This is about 3 percentage points over where it was, I think, maybe when you came in, something like that.
The difference between budgeted expenditures and as the expenditures came in, is any of that difference due to tardiness in making hires that were budgeted that we will be making in the following year?
Yes, some of it, yes, potentially. Just in general, you can see from the chart, it's sort of across the board. We spent about 95% of the budget. So a lot of that just may be delayed items that occurred. But so even if it hits next year, it was included, or in this fiscal year rather, it's included in this year's budget. So that's still cash that was not spent in fiscal year 17.
Okay. Okay, so you budgeted it, if you didn't, although you budgeted it, you didn't incur the hire or incur the expense of buying something, you're going to buy it in this fiscal year, and it's in this fiscal year's budget.
Yeah, and in this, I mean, this fiscal year's budget, each area has its budget, and everyone is told very clearly not to exceed their budget. So whether it's for items that they didn't do last year or new items, it's
Okay.
everyone's responsibility to manage within the budget as approved by this board.
I mean, in general, we've got budget discipline, let me put it that way. So the college presidents know and the vice chancellors know, your budget's your budget. Don't, it's okay if you come under it.
What?
Yeah, I know. I know that's, but they know, right, presidents? You get a lot of reports, and what we've been doing is, we've got dashboards, we've got monthly reports, we've got whatever report they want so that they know, we all know where everybody is and where you're over, where you're under. And what I care about is that they don't go over their budgets once that's true for everybody, so.
That concludes my report.
Okay, great. Well, any other questions?
Great job.
No building and ground report, right?
Thank you for all the dentists in the room for making it so simple. Great job.
Thank you.
Great job.
Okay. Board members, do you have any suggested future agenda items?
I think we ought to have a drone flying exhibition.
Okay, well, we'll ask the chancellor to consider adding that to the agenda for next month.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's just a recommendation. That was not I'm looking at those guys, they're going, yeah.
Before we adjourn, one of the things I want to do, and I hope it's not a violation of protocol, there's been a lot of problems here, Puerto Rico, and in Las Vegas, over the last few months and few days. I would like for us to all stand in a moment of silence for those individuals that were impacted. Thank you.